Hi, welcome to today's piano tutorial on Debussy's Clair de Lune. Undoubtedly one of the most loved and popular pieces of solo piano repertoire, and certainly Debussy's most famous piano piece. A little bit of background. Debussy started work on Clair de Lune in 1890, and initially he named it Promenade Sentimentale, later changing it to Clair de Lune. Now, why was that? Because Debussy was inspired by two poems of those names. I'll put them up for a little look on the screen, but I'll put the full poems and translations in the description. The poems were by Verliane. And looking at the poems, it certainly gives us a little idea and some inspiration into some imagery that perhaps will help us create a picture whilst we play. Interestingly, Debussy had already written two songs named Clair de Lune based on the poems by Verliane. I asked my French husband for a translation of Promenade Sentimentale. I thought it's a sentimental walk, but what he said was it's more a lover's walk. Some of the images that we see in both of the poems, it might be interesting for us just to notice some of those. So we've got setting sun, final rays, water, the protagonist of the poem walked alone, voices of teals, which is some birds, walking my wound. So this was from Promenade Sentimentale. Some of the imagery in the Clair de Lune poem, it talks of the sadness of moonlight, and that's juxtaposed with dancers and lute playing at the party. It's quite, I would say, the thing that stood out to me was the juxtaposition between lightness and darkness. Sad, beautiful moonlight, singing in a minor key. They don't believe in their happiness, and song that was mingling in the moonlight. Also still moonlight, sad and beautiful, birds dreaming in the trees, and fountains sobbing. That's a really amazing image which we can definitely hear. In the Promenade Sentimentale poem, water is mentioned, and the key we're going to be playing in for Clair de Lune is D flat major. And D flat major as a sound world, you could tell it is watery. It is a watery descriptive key. And in fact, Debussy, in his Reflets dans l'eau, Reflections in the Water, it's in D flat major. Starts with the, and you do hear that fifth in the Clair de Lune. So just the opening of Reflets dans l'eau. An interesting side note, the key D flat major sits beautifully under the hands. The piece is a very comfortable piece to play, even though it has nice arpeggios and runs, and it sounds like an impressive piece to play. It's, I'd say, accessible for intermediate players. And that puts me in mind of Chopin. When he started students playing scales, he would use scales that had lots of sharps and flats. So D flat major, B major, D flat major obviously has 5 flats, because Chopin used those, not C major like everybody starts with, because they fit under the fingers so well. The hanging down appendages on the white keys and the longer fingers on the black keys. One more fascinating thing that I think you're going to love to hear. We've got the instructions that Debussy gave to a pianist who he gave a lesson to on Clair de Lune, and I'll read it out to you. The pianist was Maurice Dumsnil, not sure how to say it. He had a lesson on the piece, and this is what Debussy said. So the triplets in the opening, I'll show the score and highlight where he's talking about. Triplets in the opening, flexible, but not too in time. Generally, he wanted the piece to be flexible. A tip that I'm sure everybody knows, but put your pedals down before you start so that the strings are resonating, and that makes for a beautiful sound as soon as you play the first notes. In the middle section, as the passion builds, Debussy said he wanted dignified expression, not to exaggerate the crescendos or too much rubato. When left hand has its arpeggios, Debussy said he wanted them drowned in pedal, fluid and mellow, like a harp with a background of strings. I think those are really lovely descriptions, and doesn't it just give you goose pimples to think that's what Debussy actually told a person having a lesson on the piece? Okay, let's scratch beneath the surface of the notes and see how we can help your understanding of the piece and playing. As soon as the first notes are played, we're immersed into a magical world. Just out of nowhere, the music starts, and as we feel the 3 beats, we open with 2 floating thirds. So 1, 2, 3. And in breath, it's an upbeat, it's not a downbeat, so float. Voicing the tops. And really, just listening. There's no context when we start with Fs and with A flats. We could be in F minor. We could be in D flat major, which obviously we know we are. But it just casts that magical feeling, that magical quality out of nowhere, out of the mist. The opening thirds theme. Rising and then descending a third. We're andante tre espressive, so at a walking pace, so neither too quickly or too slowly, and very expressively. We're going to take time, as if we're on a walk, we're going to take time to take in all the beauty, and we may pause here, we may move on, so we're going to be flexible, like Debussy said in his lesson. The rising motif, descending third. This is our first theme or motif, which will come back, we'll spot it coming back through the music as the piece unfolds. The descending third, it's almost like a resolution, and also it gives us that certainty that we are in D flat major. However, as we've said, it's an upbeat, it's floating, and it's the first inversion, so not rooted. Question, sort of a resolve. We know where we are a little bit, but now diminished, so a question. In the second bar, we're introduced to this turn feature. And this kind of figure comes back throughout. Really, this is decoration, and so if we look at what happens in the music, this is the bones. So can you spot a very strong descending line? And if we just glance through the music, so after the little question there, if we look at the bones, it's all descending. These turns are decoration. So Debussy starts in the first 2 lines with one of his descending lines, descending step lines that feel like it's going to go on forever. And this is basically thematic material for the piece as well, the descending steps. Debussy seems to do these, he seems to love these long descending step lines that feel endless. Like if you think of the first arabesque, so on the score I marked the descending steps, so that it's just something he does. So that's a really important thing to notice as you're playing. You must feel that descending step line. It's not that you need to bring it out, just feel it, feel the movement. That first question, the first rise in left hand. Right hand in thirds. Thirds are always, when you're playing in a melody in thirds, it gives a lyrical vocal feel, dolce. The diminished question, lyrical answer, almost a resolve back onto the F and A flat. A special moment here, notice that right hand that has been in thirds, and it's not just a turn, it's a vocal single note melody, so it's different. Notice the difference. Special. Listen to the harmony. Now look at the first phrase and notice how long it is. So we have to feel it in one long breath, with turns, with decorative turns, with that descending step, but feel it in one long breath, a very, very long phrase. Also, with Debussy, we feel that often it's a sound world, perhaps harmony-based sound world, and so forth. But in every single piece of Debussy, it's linear writing. And in this piece, each voice, it is as if each line in the music is written for a different singer. And we must notice we're never playing chordally, we're playing linear, a little bit like Bach even. So let's listen to the first two lines. We're going to notice the descending line in the bass, or the movement of the music, stepwise descending line that feels like it's going on endlessly. The harmonies, the touching moment where the right hand moves out of thirds to a single line. The turns that are decorative in the right hand, and the long phrase. There's that fifth. The fifth that we mentioned in the introduction of the reflet dans l'eau. There's our watery sound. Now, my first sort of picture, my first visual picture that I imagined when playing the opening, we're jumping on board a moonbeam and floating up towards the moon, which will mean Obviously, it's an in-breath. Obviously, we're floating. Now, another interesting thought occurred to me, because the key of D flat major, it's a warm and golden key. And whereas Moonlight could be a little bit austere, a little bit colder, if you've heard of synesthesia, some people see colours with keys. I think Schoenberg was one listed. I do, and in D flat major, it's golden light. And so when I read in the poem, the Promenade poem, well, I don't know where it is, but it mentions the sun, the setting sun cast its final rays. Well, it made me wonder, are these the setting sun rays before the moon comes out? Just a thought. But the D flat has a warmth to it, a golden warmth to it. So that's just a little side note. There's no, Debussy would say this as well, there is no right and wrong for what picture the music conjures up to you. He wanted that to be an experience that was personal. So, you know, if we see it as golden sunset rays, that's fine. If we see that as the moonlight shining down and reflecting on the water, that's fine too. But it's good to have an image, and it will transport you into the music more, and then it will transport whoever's listening to you into the music more. Yeah, let's take it from bar 9, when we have our beautiful fifth. So, pure sound world, D flat major sound world. We open up. So whereas a magical in-breath, where we really don't quite know where we are, we know where we are. And enjoy. And there's our descending third. And then now, the same top melody. So tops are the same, but the subdominant chord, G flat major, opens it up for us. Softer. No more, not a diminished question. Just sink in. So it's asking the same thing, and in bar 11, notice the melody in octaves. The unison octaves. Now we're building, our emotions are building, and it's a bigger question coming. So notice that whenever we move up and we're sort of breaking out a little bit, like, it's always countered by further descending step movement, just keeping us sort of within a certain controlled area. It's like we don't completely break free. Maybe we'll do that later. So let's just listen to the opening up again. Softer, the harmony, sync, octaves, descending third. It asked, and now it's answering with the steps downward. And then we have our magical bass E flat, PP, a new sound world. So let's move forward to bar 15, where we have our, and now it's not so lyrical. It was very lyrical, it was very vocal, it was very emotional, but now it's a more austere sound, a slightly, an undercurrent of a sad undercurrent, and now these throbbing chords. To me, what I would imagine, if either this was the golden moonlight or the sun setting, like the emotions of a sunset for these first two big phrases. Here, this is the moon has come out proper. The moon is fully out, the moonbeams, silvery white. So we want a different sound world. And look at the unison, the octaves, and you know, the three parts that are all playing. Throbbing sound, and as you can see, you've got stresses on each note. And then the fifth, which we spoke about in the Reflections in the Water piece, and also when we meet that at halfway on the second line, I'll show you. It's a sound that Debussy uses a lot. In 1889 in Paris, there was a world exhibition that Debussy listened to gamelan music, and this sound it has that Eastern feel, that gamelan feel, and this crops up a lot in his music. So feel the fifth, and it's when you, for both times, it's not a downbeat again when this chord comes in. It's an in breath, and then these are down, but a shaped phrase. Very different now. Here's the fifth sound. An upbeat, but an in breath, but stressed, and then the phrasing is different. We aren't throbbing. It's really important to feel the difference, the line. I hope you can hear that. Yeah, so as we noticed the endless descending step line in the first couple of lines, here we have, this is the step line transformed. Descending steps, you can hear that quite clearly. And then in the second phrase of this part, they're the turns that I said were decoration from higher up, line 1. Just the up and down steps that decorate. This is what's happening in the second phrase. Up and down steps. So decorating that descending line, but that descending line is the thematic material. So we're throbbing. This is the moon. We're definitely jumping on board a moonbeam. Asking, yearning, and then little big crescendo, and the movement now is going to change. Okay, we're climbing up. So, because we've changed from our descending line to the movement is going this way, the emotion is starting to rise. Notice after here, holding on with right hand, after the tie, never bump after a tie in the melody. A surprise. The chromatic A natural is a surprise. And those are your throbbing notes again. Lyrical, throbbing. And notice you've got your unisons, your octaves. And then here, I don't know why, but I like to hear the inner voice here. It just speaks to me for some reason. So let's just go back to here. Rising third, descending third, diminished, throbbing. Feel the emotion, feel the lyrical. Hear all parts, the unison. It's reaching up for the stars. It looks like it's the throbbing type of notes that had stresses beneath. It is lyrical, it's throbbing, but it's the lyrical. So sort of intone and grow, as it were. Let's go from 23. This is sparkling moonlight. Now, what's interesting, depending on which type of piano you're playing. So, if you've got an acoustic piano or a grand piano, you can play with the pedal, playing with how deeply you play, how deeply you depress the pedal, how you can make special effects by slightly blurring the harmony and allowing time to clear at the pedal. If you're on a digital piano, the depending on the polyphony of that's sort of how sustained the notes are and everything, you can do less, but you know, really listen to what you're doing with your pedal. Let me just see if I can do an example for you. Yeah, so let's just listen to the opening and try and hear when I'm slightly not changing my pedal cleanly, but allowing the sound to slightly blur and then gradually clearing it. Can you hear that just slightly before you clear it? And so what's interesting with the pedal, when you've been playing for a long time, becomes subconscious. It becomes like breathing. I will do a tutorial on pedaling. I have been asked to do it, and I will do it. But it becomes so that it's not just second nature. It is like your heart beating or your breathing is completely subconscious, and if it's quite hard for that kind of conscious to become conscious. But if I notice what I'm doing constantly, you're half pedaling, you're letting the pedal up gradually, you're doing all sorts of things that you actually weren't aware you were doing. So that is really interesting. It's something that sort of happens when you've been playing for a long time. And I would say, I'm sure there are some really famous quotes, but I would say the pedal is the soul or the heart of the piano, and maybe the notes are like the voice. You know, without the pedal is integral. It's beyond important, and it doesn't really matter what composer you're playing. And this very, very interesting subconscious or unconscious connection that your foot on the pedal has to the meaning of the music, it's really, really quite a strange thing if you suddenly try to become conscious of the unconscious. Anyway, so play around with your pedal depending on what kind of instrument you've got, because you can make really nice colours, you can almost play with special effects with the pedal, and also depending if you're in a resonant big hall or like a church somewhere resonant, again, that's going to be different. I'm in a very absorbent room, so that's a shame, but anyway, there we are. So let's go back to our moonbeam chord. Magical. You want a really new sound here. Almost like sparkly magical dust. And now I'm slowly lifting the pedal. Do you hear that magical sound? Okay, good. Let's go from bar 27. So new section, a little more movement. And we use the thematic material that we've seen so far. So let's have a look at the left hand, the arpeggios, which Debussy did mention, didn't he, in his lesson. He said, left hand arpeggios drowned in pedal, fluid and mellow, like a harp with a background of strings. So the semiquavers in left hand, they need to be even and controlled, but not notey. The notes need to be perfect, but they need to get lost in the sound world and dust. Like in the poem somewhere it says something about the mists, the swirling mist, or the mist starting to lift. So that's the sound, we want to get a sound world. And then in right hand, we've got two parts, almost like two singers. So first of all, rising third in thirds, so we've got that from the first line, haven't we? And then a rising step. So. And listen to the harmonies, D flat major. And then surprise. Bass. So we've got four parts really, haven't we? That's two parts. And then the fourth part as well. So first of all, the rising question. And there's rising step, and then descending again, answering. So let's hear all of those things. It's all fairly controlled, these two bars. Magical new sound world, and not notey, but the second line, so from bar 29, In fact, both hands really sort of break out. Where have we had 3 rising steps? Before we haven't. We've got our 5th there in the middle. 2 parts. So I would say bar 29, we've broken free. We've broken free from the descending steps. We've broken free from the rising third. So, and the left hand also is broken free. So again, that's an influence from the gamelan kind of sound. Now listen to the beautiful counterpoint and voicing here. You've got to really listen for that and bring it out. So let's listen to the first 2 lines of this page. So it's PP. Okay, so you heard the breaking free, you heard the counterpoint, you heard the harmony. And we're aiming for a sound world, not notey. When I say notey, I mean not individual notes, not the clarity, a sound world. And then we have bar 31. Let's go from 31. Okay, so let's look at the parts. So as I say, the whole piece is written in parts. It's linear writing. Each voice is important. Each voice needs to be heard and understood because it's all saying something. So bar 31, look at the bass with 3 descending. We've got our descending steps. Okay. We've got our rippling. And then on top, we've got a special moment because we've had our rising third, but we've now extended it to a rising fourth. It's kept under control because you've got that descending bass line that really is in charge. But it's an emotional moment and feel it tug the heartstrings. Then bar 32, subito piano, so let's hear that. And then grow. So our 3 descending steps, break free to E flat. Let's hear we'll go 31 up to when we reach the E flat. So that's our first really intense moment. And then we have some unisons here on bar 33. And a nice little thing you might want to try, I do thumb here, because the thumb playing the G flat as it meets up with right hand, and they have this unison descending step with a third and an ascending step. It's almost the up and the down have come together, they're partnered, they've married together, and the E flat minor, it's such an emotional moment. So let's listen 31 onwards. magical moment there. The dynamic isn't put in the music, but I like to. Okay, so shall we have a listen from 27 up to that point? So we're going to listen for a sound world, we're going to listen for all the parts, the linear parts, the rising thirds and the step questioning, the sinking down answering, the breaking free with the chordal, maybe having a feeling that this could be a lute, it could be a song, inspiration from the poem, the emotional intense moment when we reach the E flat minor. We're sort of testing the water here. Oh, what's happening? Enjoy the D flat major. And now we get to 35, and it's similar. It's up an octave from 27. But magical, okay, and yeah, that's the same. Okay, we've got a fantastic moment coming up, so let's have a listen. Asking. Totally new colour, and harmonically it's written in E major, okay, as opposed to F flat major as it was here. So it's pretty much like the same notes, but enharmonically it's you have to breathe in. It's an inspiration, an in-breath, and just a totally new and magical sound. Okay, see if you can hear it. We grow from there. So throughout this page, we're growing, we're counterbalancing, rippling semiquavers, which sometimes break away, with rising thirds and rising steps, asking and descending, bringing it back down with descending thirds and descending steps, until we reach an ascending fourth, which is the moment just before we get to our E flat minor intense climax. And then the questions happen again, and then we get to bar 37. So here, what happens if you look at our parts? Sound world, again inspired by the Eastern instruments, the gamelan kind of sound, but look at right hand. I would say we break out. We had a little freedom here when we had that in bar 29, but we're breaking out. And also look here, the unisons there, yeah? So let's have a listen to the breaking out moment. Yes, let's have a listen from 35. Let's listen to the breaking out moment. Break out here, we come down a bit, okay? And also watch what left hand does from 38. This is the bass note, bass line. What do we have there? We have one of our extensive descending step lines. Now you may not even have noticed that that line's there, but it's there, and as that descends and almost it keeps us this side of literally letting go, right hand actually keeps going. So one descending step. Okay, let's have a listen. Okay, so what you've got to notice, the okay, so those rising thirds go up to heaven, they break free. At the same time, be aware of from bar 38. It's really hard to hear all of those things at once, but once you become aware of them, and so we sort of unify now. Right hand's escaped with its rising right the way up the piano, but then bar 41, we've got one of our descending lines that go on forever and ever again. Okay, so left hand. And then, okay, so let's have a listen. I think what we'll do next, we're going to listen from 27 all the way up to 43. And when we get to 43, we're going to have a completely new sound world. So what is really interesting about this piece, if you scratch down and look at the thematic content, i.e. what that means is, if you look at how it's constructed from the very basics, a rising third, a descending step, an up step, a down step, which is a turn that is just a decoration, and how all of these things develop through the piece, everything is like, it's like a golden thread that weaves its way through the whole piece. In fact, lots of golden threads that weave their way through the whole piece, and each of those threads are an independent and living entity. They're a living being, and it's like this is what all it makes up the piece. Okay, so just a note, when 41 and 42, the line, it's like the long descending line and the arpeggios, it's almost like one breath. And then we have fifth, a rocking fifth, okay? and you want a sort of transparent sound world. It's there, but it's not there. Could you hear that it was there, but it wasn't there? And then what you've got here is some really nice part writing. So we've got what's that? That's an ascending step line with a third and then a descending step. All from the thematic material. And at the top, together. Thirds on top of each other, yeah? So this is what I'm saying about it all being linear. It's parts, it's counterpoint really, isn't it? So from bar 43 onwards for the next 3 lines, we've got a conversation that you can hear quite clearly. Over our sound world bass. And then on 45, so you have to be adept at making the melody with whichever fingers you use. So I use thumb, 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 1, 2. And Chopin, he was an exponent of using perhaps not which fingers you think you would do, but you can make a legato line with thumb. Play it with 2 hands so you can hear distinctly both parts. Let's have a listen to how this sounds. We want to hear all those threads. Quite often when you hear this piece played, you just hear the tops. We don't want to just hear the tops. Can you hear that sound world there? And then the lower melody at bar 43, then at bar 47 it's in the bass, left hand. The thirds on top of each other at the top, which may remind you of see, it's all connected, all weaves together. So this takes us to, it's like a coda remembering the first page. Bar 49, 50. Listen to the changing line. And definitely it's PPP, but it's a sad, heart-touching sound. And you may remember that we said when these appear out of the ether, out of nowhere, at the start of the piece, and with no point of reference, what key are we in? You know, it could be major, could be minor. Well, so the opening transformed and we are in F minor. And it's nice to cross over with left hand to enjoy the magical sound. Okay, so I'm going to share a little secret for the last page. So imagine maybe a fairy story like Cinderella or something, and the clock chimes midnight and you hear the bells. Okay, so we've got bells on from bar 51 onwards. So you see where left hand has the F, the repeated Fs with the stress. These are bells. Okay, these are chiming to say the night's going to be over. So let's just have a listen to how that sounds. And above, it's a dream world. Remembering what happened. And don't worry about the pedal being nice and resonant here with, you know, some of the harmonies can blur a little bit. It softens now as the bell, the F bell moves down to E flat. Now the last bell. So it's almost a variant on the opening. And also similarly to the opening, super long phrases as if all in one breath. Let's go from bar 55. Surprise. Softening. And then noticing again the descending line. We've got your bells to E flat, then D flat, C, drop to the octave, B flat here, then A flat, G flat, F, E flat, D flat. So although the line is cut up a little bit, it's there all the way down. Let's go 55. Watch out for the descending bass line. Watch out for the long phrases. Watch out for the changes in harmony that you must feel and express with a different sound. Surprise. We're going to reach home. And remember on page 1 when we said we opened up? We're opening up. But the most heart-stopping moment of the piece, the C flat. And that means you're sort of remembering the night, the magical night. It's almost like the story of A Midsummer Night's Dream or something. The magical night in the walled garden with the love walk, the moonlight, the setting sun, riding on a moonbeam, all of these kind of things, the fountains, any of the imagery that was in the poems. So, but when we get to here, it's over. The magic is going to be over, and that's when it tells us it's going to end, okay? That moment. So the notes carry on, you know, your opening up carries on, but we have a new sound for heart-stopping moment. It's over. let's hear the relief again. Make sure to hold the tops where the long notes are held and tied over. I.e. the F at the top. Relief. There's that C flat again. There. It's not accented this time like it was. It's still there in the background almost. There's your octaves. They're trying to sing. It's trying to sing again. Let's do it again from 59. Relief just. Still painful, the C flat's there, but hear those unisons there. And notice the rising line in the bass, which is it's a little bit strange, isn't it? That rising line is there when our movement really would be downward in this section. Relief for a moment. A flat, the rising bass line. The C flats here again. Bars. The music's saying, is it true? Are you sure? Is it really over? So let's hear. It's asking, are you sure? Is it really true? Is it over? And enjoy almost the last semblances of the moon there with the. Okay, so I guess 66 onwards it is, maybe it is a coda, and we move between D flat major and F minor, which is interesting, isn't it? When we said the opening could have been D flat major or F minor. So we're still in our magical nighttime story, but now juxtaposition between the D flat minor and the D flat major and the F minor. I think it's night and day, day's coming, the night's going. Okay, so it's over, yeah? Now, here, I think this is one of the most magical moments in the piece. This is the sun starting to rise. I'm totally clear that that's what's happening. Can you hear it? Let's listen again. So this is the night time. This is our story. It's going to be over. It's going to be day. Night. Story. It's going to be over. It's day. The sun's starting to rise. Same again. Sun starting to rise. This is the sunrise. Can you hear it? So the last page is very special, and it is telling a very clear story. You have those bells, almost like, the midnight chime sound in Cinderella and all the magic dissolves. It's that kind of bell, that kind of a feeling, that the clock's chiming. Then we have our remembering, and we have our C flat when it's telling us it's going to be over. Then we have our night, day, the juxtaposition. And then the magical, out of the blue sound that means the sun is starting to rise. And then when we reach the glorious 2 final bars, and you can just hear that sun rising, can't you? So I think we'll listen from, I'll just mention, you remember when right hand broke free completely at bar 39 and preceding that. And in the poem, one of the poems, it said about the fountains sobbing in ecstasy. Can you hear it? You can just hear it, can't you? Those fountains sobbing in ecstasy. Right, we'll play from 49 to the end, and I want you to listen in fact, we'll go from tempo 1, which is 51, to the end. Listen to all of that, the story of the last page. Did you hear it all? So I think I would say feel the storyline through the whole piece. The sound worlds, the singers, the singing lines, the threads of the story that entwine and grow from one part to the next, and it's all connected in the music. the gamelan type sounds, and the organic development of the piece as a whole. It's really such a beautiful piece, and I hope you've enjoyed working through it with me. I will link a performance of the piece that you can click on the end screen, and if you have any requests for future tutorials or any questions, please leave it down in the comments. Don't forget to like, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.